on, tell the truth. Is your exercise program working, or is your treadmill collecting dust? Instead of dreading a workout on an expensive clothes hanger, try a form of exercise that's so much fun you won't want to stop. Square dancing. Your body will get a workout, and so will your mind. You'll meet people of all ages who know how to have a good time. Mark your calendar for Friday, October 3rd at 7 p.m. That's when you can learn how to enjoy this traditional American activity for free. Couples and singles are welcome. There's no fancy clothing required and no special steps to learn. If you can walk, you can square dance. Come to the Boise Square Dance Center on Diamond Street just off Gowan Road for a free introductory night of beginner square dancing. Start at square one with other beginners and enjoy a fun evening for everyone. For directions or more information, call Roy, the square dance caller, at 376-9378. That's 376-9378. It's so much fun, you won't realize you're working out.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Thank you. This is Tuesday, April 6, 2004, for the benefit of the tape. We are in the Winning Ways New Ideas session. We're going to share some ideas that have been successful for clubs from these three gentlemen up here. We'll introduce them as we go along. After they have made their presentation, we're going to open it up for some discussion and some thoughts and ideas from you people out there. This session is being taped. If you have anything to question, comment, great ideas, new ideas, please make sure you use the microphone so we can get it on the tape, because there are some people that are not here with us that will want to learn of your great experience. We have a gentleman down front, Mike Hogan, will be running the microphone after a while if we can keep him awake. Starting off, I'll introduce these gentlemen as we go. The first person to talk with you today is Lyle Beck. His wife, Jean, is sitting back there someplace, about the middle. Lyle and Jean began dancing in '86. They're from Dubuque, Iowa. I pronounced it right. They've had leadership positions in the local club, federation, state, and national level ever since they've started dancing. They've been vice president and president of the Iowa State Square and Round Dance Federation, and have served on the USDA Executive Committee, positions of secretary, vice president, and president. And you're now past president. Okay. This is their 5th CALLERLAB convention, and I'm sure Lyle and Jean have a lot of good experiences and some ideas to share with you. Why don't you welcome?
Thank you, Tom, and we're glad to see everyone here. I feel very honored to be asked to participate in one of the breakout sessions, one of the seminars here at CALLERLAB, where dancers have had quite a bit of leadership experience, but I feel it's a real honor to be asked to participate, and I hope what I contribute is you'll find it very worthwhile. What I have done is I've looked for success stories in clubs and associations, groups in the area that I'm aware of. Some of these are quite successful, others are smaller successes, but you can build on the small successes as well as the big ones. In doing the research for this, I contacted quite a few clubs, and I do have a 4-page handout that at the end of the session, my wife Jean will be at the back of the room, and she'll pass them out so that you can review them. I will kind of hit and miss on what I have here, hit some of the high spots, and then you can study the rest of it and get more information. This is loaded pretty heavily on Wisconsin and Missouri. That just seems to be where I got the information from. Their state magazines were very good in putting information out, and so you may figure, well, how come it's all Wisconsin? Well, they're a neighbor to us, and so is Missouri, but that's where my information pretty much came from. Like, for example, a Happy Twirlers in La Crosse, Wisconsin. They put a demo dance on before the annual fireworks show in La Crosse each year, and they have the crowd join in. They pass out cards at the demos, and this last year they invited a non-square dance singles group to join them, and they had several people from the singles group come in and take lessons. They also invited a senior group to join in classes, and they had 15 when they started lessons. I don't have a current count, but they had pretty good success there. Now the square benders in Milwaukee, they told me that word of mouth is still the best tool to get people into the new dancer classes. They advertise in the Milwaukee newspaper, and a big city newspaper is expensive, but they did get some calls from that. They said they got several calls. They have a very active club, the Square Benders. They have 65 members, and they recently had a potluck and a club meeting, and they had 35 come for this potluck and meeting. There was no dance involved, so their members are very active. When they have their new dancer classes, they hold 30 or more sessions. They go slow. They want their dancers to be strong dancers when they get out and give them all the benefit they can. So they take plenty of time as they go through their classes. They also teach some line dancing, some rounds along with it. They have a lot of angels attend, so there's a good interaction between the new dancer and the older dancers. So at the end of classes, well, you have to go to a different day, and here's a whole new group of people. They know the people, and this is a good way to integrate them into the club. They had, for several years, sent letters to churches inviting people to join, and this just did not work for them. They found other things worked better. And they welcome both singles and couples. The Trailblazers in Ozark, Missouri, he said, we put posters and flyers up all over. And again, he said word of mouth is very good as far as getting people. This year they had a group that were already friends, and they came as a group to beginner lessons, and that was 14 or 16 people in a group that came. Last year the Trailblazers had a group from a church that came to class, so they've been fortunate in drawing on groups. He said some of their new dancers are brush-up dancers, but they're as good as a new dancer if you can get them back. Theirs is a caller-run club, but he said their caller is very good, and things are going well there in Ozark, Missouri. The Swinging Single Squares in Milwaukee, they have 18 new dancers this year. It's an active club. Even with the snowbirds gone, and in the northern areas we have a lot of snowbirds that leave us in the winter and come back, but with the snowbirds gone, they had 121 and 131 at their last two dances. So the singles are active. Kind of interesting with them, a caterer had asked them to put on a demo at one of the functions that they were catering, and it was very successful, and so now they're on the caterer's website, and whenever the caterer wants them to perform, they perform for the caterer, and they get some publicity on the website. They take as long with lessons as they need. They don't plan to graduate their new dancers until June, and they try to make the dancers and the students feel welcome. In Kansas City, Missouri area, several clubs banded together and had a successful new dancer experience. Steve Hoffman from Mount Pleasant, Texas, had called a dance up there and told that he'd been very successful in getting new dancers. He's a young, dynamic caller, and he has a lot of fun. And so they talked with him, and a group of clubs banded together to present combined lessons. And they had a little different schedule. They went to 3 Saturday sessions. It went from 1 in the afternoon to 5:30. They took a break in the middle for a potluck and lunch break. And In my handout in the back, I have a reprint from the Missouri Show Me Doings, their state magazine, and the whole page is devoted to their lessons. Like I said, they have the 3 sessions from 1 to 5:30 on a Saturday, and at first there's a lot of apprehension. Is this going to work? I don't know that it'll work. But by the time they were into their second Saturday, the people that questioned it were sold on it, and they really all worked together. They had about 40 new dancers at each session, about that many angels. And after they held the first 2 sessions, then Steve Hoffman came up from Texas and put on a new dancer dance. And they had 13 squares at that new dancer dance. Even though they only had 3 sessions, you know, they kind of work in this new dancer dance, and that makes it a 4th session that they don't even really realize. And they had one caller teach the first 2 sessions. The 3rd session was taught by another caller. And the association was very supportive, worked with them, and they said even after the first session, those who doubted were won over. This really did work, and I can see a lot of potential for this type of way to present lessons. I think this is a new idea where we think outside the box, and I think this would be very, very helpful for some. And before they got done, the new dancers were anxious to bring their friends to the next set of lessons, and I think they're planning to do it again next year, or this fall. The Gateway Squares in Antigo, Wisconsin, I talked to their caller, and she had been a long-term caller, retired, and moved up to Antigo. And the first year, she ran an ad in their local shopper for $3 a week. But she ran the ad continuously for 8 weeks, so there are a lot of impressions. People saw it week after week. And that first year, she had a class of 10 students. I talked to her, and she is just so dynamic and so upbeat, and I'd like to have her for our caller. She just sounded so progressive, and I really think she has a lot going there. The second year, to get new dancers, they had a booth at the county fair. Now this cost them $60 for the 5-day run, but they set up their tables, had colorful coverings on them. They had banners, they had square dance clothes displayed. They had pictures on a board and on albums on the table. They had a TV playing with square dance video showing that was run continuously. And they had people sign up for a chance for a free year of square dance lessons. And of course they got their name, address, and phone number. Well, they did select the winner, but they also had these other names that they could contact them that had showed some interest. And so they called them, sent out flyers beforehand. And I think this is a key, that you don't just call them once and drop it. I think repetition helps. So whether it's the 8 weeks in a row that it ran in the newspaper, or they get a call, then they get a flyer in the mail. The week before lessons, they get another call, things like that. She also taught square dancing to a 5th grade class at a parochial school. And she had 2 1-hour sessions per week for 6 weeks. And some parents joined in, and so she did get some dancers from the 5th grade teaching she did too. Her advice was to keep square dancing in front of the public. Their local paper will publish articles. If she writes an article and even sends a picture in, a smaller community, they're glad to get that, and so that keeps it in front of the public. Talk positive, keep everything positive in front of the public. Several clubs that I talked to have worked successfully with schools. In Liberty, Missouri, which is a Kansas City suburb, The public schools have promoted and conducted square and line dance lessons for 2 years. The school sends a flyer out to 38,000 homes before the start of, and this lists all their adult classes. It's our community education program. So it goes to 38,000 homes, and the school provides a hall for the classes. They pay the caller to teach the sessions. They provide the insurance through the school's system. And the clubs only have to provide the members to act as angels. And last year they got new dancers from the lessons, and this year I think they have 35 taking lessons, and they're planning for next year. And I have a couple examples here of what they have in their community education program if you want to look at them after the session. But this has been very successful and gets a lot of publicity out. I guess more or less in review here, I have a few thoughts that have come through as I talk to the people. Whatever works for you is your most important recruiting tool. What works for some people may not work for you. You have to tailor it to your area and your personalities. There's no one silver bullet that will work for everyone. You just have to search and find what works for you. For example, one Illinois club has 3 co-presidents. No one wanted to take the responsibility for the presidency, so they have 3 couples that rotate every 4 months. One of these couples goes south for the winter, so they're not available then. When they come back, they take their turn, and it's not as big a burden for any one. There are vice president contracts with the callers for the upcoming years, and this is how they spread the responsibilities, and it does work for them. They live in a retirement settlement, and they have potlucks to recruit. They have 27 couples in their club, and all but 9 of those couples go south for the winter, again, the snowbirds. So they have small crowds in the winter, but in the summer they come back, and it works for them. Universally, the people I talked to praised and complimented their callers. I didn't have a single one that said anything derogatory about their callers. You people are doing a good job. You really are. And we as dancers appreciate that. We want you to know that. And just universally, they said their callers were helpful, cooperative. Our caller's a great teacher. This was just a universal feeling. Many of them told me that word of mouth, one-on-one communication is still usually the best method to get new dancers. Former dancers are a good possible source. Use your imagination, think outside the box. And I'd also ask you to encourage dancers to become callers. In our area, we've lost several callers to retirement and things. Many of them have called for 30 and 35 years, and you sure can't fault them for getting tired and wanting to retire. But see if you have some dancers that are interested. Last night at dinner, we sat next to a man from Idaho, and he's been calling for 7 or 8 years and taking lessons, and he thought that looked kind of interesting. The caller encouraged him, and he called for a camp out one time, and he was hooked, and he really enjoys it. Your attitude as a caller is very important, and myself, I'm very satisfied with the attitude of the callers, but keep that positive attitude up. One other thing I'd like to touch on is the Arts Dance Alliance. You heard a little about that yesterday morning from Jim Masco, the new chairman of the Arts Alliance. But this is formed by the major square and round dance organizations in the country, and this is a way for us to get together and start to work together to solve our problems. It is up and running. We are incorporated, 501c3 status. We expect to receive the final approval on that within a month or so. And I think this is a way for everyone to work together and and put together some good programs rather than being fragmented and each pulling our own way. And we certainly encourage you to learn about the Arts Alliance and take it back to your dancers and tell them about it, because we think this is really the future of square dancing. And you, as an individual, can become a member for $50, $100 a couple. You can make a donation, and you can be an individual member of Arts. And I'd encourage you to do that, or have your club possibly hold a benefit dance. This Saturday night in San Diego, there's going to be a benefit dance for the arts. A week or two from now in Alabama, they're going to have a benefit dance for the arts. And have one in your own area. Have your club sponsor one, and talk to us or any of the organizations. We'll be glad to give you more information. So I thank you for your time and attention. Yes. Are we taking questions now, Tom?
Hello, I'm Arthur Parks. I'm area chairman for Southern California Bachelors and Bachelorettes. I wanted simply to ask about this lady that was a retired caller that seemed to have done a whole lot of things, very good things. Her first year, you mentioned she had 10 students in her class. Do you have any data for them the next year?
Well, the next year she talked about having the booth at the fair. She didn't give me numbers for the second year, but her club is growing, because I was talking about someone in southern part of Wisconsin. Oh, you've got to talk to this club up there. They have been very successful. And I don't have her name with me, but I can get her name for you if you're interested.
Thank you very much.
So see me after the session.
Mike, I want to get one more back here.
Betty Bale from Sun City West, Arizona. My question is, are these mainstream clubs that you're referring to, are they mainstream and plus? Do you have that information?
Well, in our part of the country, most of them are mainstream clubs and have 1 or 2 plus tips. There are some plus clubs, but I believe these are pretty much all mainstream. One of them may have been, well, if they're getting new dancers, I'm sure there are mainstream clubs in our area there.
Okay, thank you, Lyle. Let's give him a hand. We will open it up after everybody's made their presentation for your additional questions and comments. Our second panelist today is Al Shaw from Boise, Idaho. His wife Linda is sitting down here in the front row. Al started dancing in 1985, started cueing in 1986, started round dancing 2 months later. Okay. Good man. They conduct a weekly round dance club. He cues for 2 square dance clubs, teaches basic rounds for one of these. Al is retired from the Air Force, 20 years as a pilot. He is currently the executive administrator for CALLERLAB. Linda is sewing machine sales in sewing machine sales and instructions. He, in a comment in his bio to me, he said, I've included Linda in round dancing because we work as a team, not individually. Even though I'm up front most of the time, it is the job of Linda, the person on the floor, to let me know what needs to be changed and how to change it. Every time I thought I've been better, she can correct me, and I should follow her directions. I call her my manager because she could always tell me what to do, and if I don't follow her direction, I'm probably wrong. I can resemble that. Put your hands together and welcome Al Shaw.
Thank you, Tom. I have some handouts here. Linda, do you want to split these up and just send them down both sides? The first 3. And then we'll get these last 2 out till we finish. as you came in, you probably heard the commercial that I'm going to talk about first. One of our local callers up in Boise decided last year that he wasn't getting the results that he needed, and he has a business up there anyway, so he was working with a radio advertisement company, and at that time he said, "Hey, what can you guys do for me for Square Dance?" And I said, "Well, not much," and kind of, beat around the bush a little bit. So he finally got with them, and that's a commercial that we had on to begin with, and we'll put it on again at the end, that he put on the radio. He started this commercial in August, very late in August, early in August. Ran in August and September. He started his classes in October. Out of this commercial, he had, I believe it was one call back that said, "Hey, I want to come to class." The night he drove into class the first night and said, "This is going to be a total disaster. Nothing's going to happen." 2 more couples showed up that had not talked to him at all, had not called, nothing. And another one showed up also the next night. So out of the one radio ad, cost him $600. They ran it about 98 times. He got 4 new couples. For Boise, this is outstanding. I mean, we're lucky to get a full square if you go out there and really beat the bushes. And I don't know how it's happening in other areas, but it sounds like this kind of the same everywhere. So he was extremely happy. He also did some other demos in the park and different things, and out of that he got another one, and another couple, and then 3 more couples from his class members the prior year came in. So he ended up with 2 full squares, and extremely pleased. And as I dance with him every other week, and I believe that they're all 8 still there. So that is really outstanding, that all 8. And the 2 that came in, or the 3 that came in off the radio ad, they're looking forward to the next class so they can bring their friends. So he opened up a whole new bucket of worms out there that he can go bring these new worms in to learn the square dance. And that is, totally unheard of, because when our friends see us coming, they say no. They start shaking their head before we even get there. So if you have a new pool that you can open up and get into, that's good. Now, this $600 may sound like a lot for 98 slots, but you got to remember that those of you that heard this ad the first time today probably never even heard it. Something was playing in the background. I don't know what it was. Yes, it had square dance music to it. The second time you start to hear it a little bit. By the time you get to hear it maybe 8 or 10 or 12 times, then stuff starts to sink in a little bit to you. And you say, oh, well, maybe this is something I need to do. And that's, it's going to take a lot of repetition, a lot of times coming through before it's finally going to get there. So that was his whole goal, was to get it out there a number of times before his classes, get people to come out. All the information was there that they needed. They didn't have to contact him, as 2 of them showed him, and they just showed up at the Square Dance Center on Diamond Street. And it's not the easiest place to find, I'll tell you, but they can get out there and they can find it. So the people can get out there and do that. I put a little note on your handout that this may seem a little bit high, but my wife works with sales also, and her sales, the person that puts their ads, advertising person, said that it costs approximately $200 per car that they sell for each car dealership up there. They plan on $200 per car to sell that car. So, this $200 or 4 couples for $600 was really pretty good if you compare them to a car. The rest of my examples are round dance examples. Coming from Round-A-Lab, I went out to the membership and said, hey, here's what I'm looking for. Of course, I got the typical response I normally get from everybody asked for. I didn't get anything. So I went back through our journals that they had published success stories, and came up with the examples that I have on the rest of your handouts. The first one is free round dance lessons. And I think these can apply right straight across to square dance lessons also. Why can't we give free square dance lessons? It worked for these 4 couples, or these 4 units that got together, and they went out and started teaching. And I'm not sure exactly how. That's why I have the references here if you want to talk to them. And they are all willing to talk to anyone that wants to talk to them about their stories. Okay, so you have a phone number and a email address where you can contact them. But they got together, they put together the round dance classes, and they advertised them for free. So people were coming in for free round dance lessons. We kind of did this when we first started our round dance classes in Boise. We were working in a school. There was an elephant box sitting on the end of one table. We'd bring the elephant box in and sit it down at the beginning of the evening. We'd pick the elephant box up and put it in the equipment box at the end of the night. We never opened the elephant box while we were there, but a lot of other people did. And the elephant box was just to happen to put tips or whatever in. And you know, it was really magic. You made more off the elephant box than you ever make off of what you charge at the door, because they forget to bring money this week, and next week they drop a 20 in there. And it's unbelievable how much money you can make off of tips. So that's an idea. Give them free, but leave a tip box out. They don't feel like they want to come in there and do classes for free, so they're going to give you some money because they aren't going to feel right doing it. Guarantee that. So it's a possibility. I'm trying to watch my time here too. The next one I have listed on here is community center dancing. And Lyle already spoke a little bit about that, and I'll develop it a little bit more. We also worked with the community center when, not community center, but the recreation department when we were in Boise and in Mountain Home also. And they give you a lot of free advertising. They send out flyers to the entire county. They reach areas that you can't even think about. So if you can get even one class with them, you can get advertising throughout the entire county, throughout the entire city, and it's all free advertising. So if you throw a little bit of that free advertising in, at the same time you can put a radio ad alongside of it and say come out at the same time, you've got double the bang for the buck. So, you know, you can really improve your chances there. On this community center dancing that Tim and Nana were doing, they left the doors open when they taught class. And you say, well, the students don't like people coming and watching. They told the students they were going to do this beforehand. They said people may stop, people may come in, people may sit down, people may watch. And we would like for you to be comfortable with this and explain it up front. What they were trying to do was interest more people. And out of that, they did pick up people. So not only just advertising through the community system, but leaving the doors open because people are attending classes in other rooms. They get done with that class earlier, they hear this music coming from down the hall, and they stop by and say, what's going on over there? Well, when are you starting the next class? And it kind of, you know, generates itself and helps to build a little bit more. On the next page of my handouts there, a funny thing happened on the way to retirement. Kit and Sandy Brown down in North Carolina is where I want to say. I think that's where they are. They lived down in the big city, and they had bought this farm out a little ways away, and decided that after about 2 years of commuting out to the farm every other day, it was time to move out there. So somehow, I don't remember the total details, but they got in teaching class to one of the schools when they were working with one of the principals one night. They got in and taught this 6th grade class is what I remember. And eventually, down the road a few weeks, they end up in a dance. Well, the 6th graders, you know about as much how much 6th graders like to get together and dance. Not really the prime of things that they want to do. They stand around, they look at each other, and they kind of shuffle around a little bit. But Kit and Sandy had them dancing. So they get to this school dance, and Kit and Sandy made sure that they got some cha-chas and some rumbas and dances that they could dance. And so these 6th graders get out, and they start dancing together. And they basically put on a pretty good show. The 8th graders got jealous. And so they demanded that they have equal time. This could work just as well with squares. If you can get into a school somewhere, and I went to school session yesterday, had a lot of great ideas for getting into the school. Once you get in there, if you can get one group interested and use them to prod the other group, the other sessions. You know, if you can get the 6th graders to demonstrate their stuff and how great they can be, and the 8th graders see them, They're going to say, hey, these sixth graders can do it. We should be a whole lot better than they are. Why can't we do it? So you can build a program off of one class and, you know, work with the other classes that way. Keep things moving. And that takes 2 pages to tell all of that, but whatever. The small experience is the next one. Tim Pilichowski out of Maryland lost his place to dance one summer. It's hot to go out and dance on the pavement. So he went down to the local mall and said, hey, I'd like to bring my round dancers in here and do a little dancing in the summertime. People may stop by and may enjoy it. The round dancers, before they start dancing, when they get done, will probably visit the malls. And he talked to mall executives or whoever the right person is to talk to in the mall into letting him have one little section back in the back. And we don't have it all outlined on this little diagram I've got on here, but he was back in the back section where he would not interfere with any of the shops, but he made sure the speakers were trained the direction where the sound would follow in the direction of where the shops were. So they hear the music down on the other end, you know, half a mile away. They're going to follow the music to see what's going on. He picked up people that way for his classes the following fall. The mall enjoyed having him in there because they brought extra people in. Once people found out when they were coming in, people would come in and watch. Of course, they go in and visit the shops at the same time. Square and round dancers, as you know, cause very little problem that I've ever seen anyway, or we've ever heard of. And it's a great promotional thing because you have no problem with the people that are coming in. You don't have kids running around destroying things. People come in and watch. You can build your program. It's free rent. It's air conditioned in the summertime. It's heated in the wintertime. Yeah, you're dancing on tile usually or cement, but for an hour or so each week you can handle that. And it is a way of building your program. You're in the public. What can you say, you know? Free rent. Tip box again, though. That's all that I really was going to talk about. The other parts of the handouts here that I have is just things that I ran across while I was running through my journals, and one of them is teaching in spurts, a method of teaching that one of our round dance instructors used. Another one is suggestions for retaining round dance members, and make sure you get that one before you leave. And the other one is it's the music, having them dance to the music, make sure they are working the music whenever they are dancing. In rounds, you pretty much have to dance to the music. On occasion, you can find the people that won't dance to the music, but it's kind of tough. Where in squares, you don't always have to dance to the music, but it's a lot easier when you do. You know, so any hot questions for me before we go? We got one back here.
I'm Bruce Simpers from Ellicott City, Maryland, and I was wondering on the radio advertisement, did you get a professional radio voice to do that?
Yes, that was a professional radio voice. The advertising agency had the voices to do it, and I believe Roy supplied a group of music that they could choose from. And so they chose from what they thought would fit their specific radio audience the best and ran their professional voice on the ad.
So they also, the advertisement company did the selection of words that were used in the advertisement?
Yes, Roy had final approval for everything, but they did the selection. They gave him I think it went through like 5 generations. You know, they would send Roy the suggested advertisement. He would send it back with the suggested corrections. That took about 5 times to get back and forth till they got it worked out the way they exactly wanted it. Right behind you.
You thoughtfully provided the text of that radio ad. Would it be possible, however, to get a copy made of that ad from you?
I can't answer that right now, but I'll take your name, and if we can get that, it will be on this tape. Okay? because I'm going to play it again at the end. It's on the beginning of the tape and it will be on the end, but we may be possible to get another copy also. I will have to check with Roy to make sure.
I guess I will buy the tape.
Well, either way, but get your name to me and I could possibly get it for you.
All right. Give Al a nice round of applause. All right. Batting in the cleanup spot today, we have Dana Schirmer from Topeka, Kansas. I don't know, is Donna here, Dana? Not in here. She's here, but not in here. Okay. Dana, as I mentioned, is from Topeka, Kansas. He is also a member of the Board of Governors of CALLERLAB. Dana has been calling for 26-plus years, has done a lot of good things out in the Kansas area, and we're going to let him tell us about it.
Okay, I'm going to change microphones here because I'm a square dance caller. I like to be up moving around. Thank you, Mike. As I said, I'm a square dance caller, and most of you know the reason we stand and move around a lot is it's harder to hit a moving target. So, again, we want to thank you all for coming this morning. I'm going to, rather than get down to individual type programs, I'm going to be more general about things. And tell you some of the things that I feel are important to our activity and things we need to be looking at. Like it or not, right now, each one of you are selling square dancing. And I think that's what we need to realize every time we put on our square dance badge, our outfits, or whatever. In the public's eyes, we are selling square dancing. And how we conduct ourselves with those badges on means the world of difference. If you walk down the hallway with your outfits on and your badges on and shake hands with people, smile at them, they remember that. Square dancers are friendly people. If you walk by them and treat them rude or whatever, they remember that even more so. Our first impressions are the ones they remember. Okay? So I encourage that. I talk to my club members a lot about that. When you're out and go in the restaurants afterwards, treat the waitresses and the cooks or whoever very courteously, because they remember that. If you are rude to them, they're not only turning that person off to square dancing, they're going home and telling their spouse about it. Well, we had a group of square dancers came in here that were just rude to us. And I don't think anyone would, but at the same point in time, if they came across that impression, they would remember that a lot longer. And next time you go in and say, we'd like you to learn square dancing. No, we don't want to do that. And a negative person will actually do worse for us in this activity than finding a very positive person, because the negative person will tell 20 people, and that just hurts the soul. So, again, we're all salespeople. When we're out with our badges on, our image is what people remember, and that goes for about any activity you may be in. Yesterday, Mike and Tom and their committee, or their presentation, talked about thinking outside the box. And that really means a lot. We need to start thinking outside of what we have been doing and start thinking about the positives of what can be done, and not just saying, well, we're limited to this area. Why not open up and do something else? We've all said still our best selling tool is word of mouth. And the best word of mouth comes from your current students. Why not increase the current students? Well, finding them is a big problem. The multi-cycle program, which many of you probably heard about, and we had Mike Lanning here does a session. They do a session jointly. Works very well because you're constantly having students. They constantly keep turning around new dancers and bringing new ones in. There's a club in Lawrence, Kansas that started a couple years ago. They started with the idea it was going to be a multi-cycle program. So the club actually started from lessons. The funny part about it is the lessons keep growing. They keep getting more people in lessons. But when they have their club nights, very few of the people go to the club nights. They have a lot of guests and there are a few club members. But every night in lessons, they got a return of just about every group they have. Everybody keeps coming back. They have more fun for lessons. I think that's an image that we need to be thinking about. Lessons should be fun, and hopefully most of us are trying to make them fun. But if they're fun, people keep coming back to lessons, and they'll keep telling other people. And the eventually maybe that will keep people in the dancing a lot longer. When we're talking about recruiting, we need innovative people that actually want to work at recruiting. I heard of one group that said they had two ladies that did the recruiting. And they brought in, just those two ladies was bringing in 10 to 12 couples every time they did lessons. And somebody said, well, what happened if they wouldn't do that? If they would make sure they didn't want to be recruiting people. And the president of the club said, we probably wouldn't have lessons because they were the only ones really doing the recruiting. It's great to get people like that, and we need people like that. It's hard to find them. So you really have to evaluate your people and put people together that work well together. I did a set of lessons one time for 3 people. I'm sitting there saying, well, I can't afford to do the lessons for 3 people. Come to find out, the one single person I had there was very active in the schools. She was a school teacher. She ended up promoting several more lessons for us, just that one person. If I had not done this set of lessons, I would have lost that person. You never know where you're going to find yourselves to. There's a club down in Houston, Texas called the Hey Lollies. A lot of callers refer to them and know about them. They're a very active club, large club. They work very well together. How do you get that to work together? You find the right leaders for it. They've done that. They recruit well. They set up a whole committee of people that take it very serious when they start back recruiting. That's their goals. They start out, and one group from each year they try to outdo the group before them. They involve their classes with having the classes work up after-party skits as part of the class schedule. So the class people again blend into the club before they even get to the club. So it's an active, positive thing for the clubs. One thing that I tried a lot is involving different people in different groups. Next thing I'm going to tell you probably sounds silly, but it's working. We do a lot of demos for retirement centers with the intent that we encourage the staff to let the families know we're going to be there. The families come see how well we work with the senior citizen and people in the retirement centers, and that gives us a positive image. And we get a lot of people saying, "When's the lesson starting?" We have several people like that lined up, several groups like that lined up right now, including the hospice center. And the side benefit of this, we have several of these retirement centers offering this free rent now. Can you come in and do your lessons here? We don't care if you go till 9:30, but there'll be entertainment for our people. So we thought we may end up next year doing a rotation every other week going to a different senior center for lessons. I talked to my class I currently have going, and every one of them is very excited about the possibility of doing it. They're coming up with more suggestions of things we could do for that. So I think it's a positive way of, first of all, giving us a good image for square dancing, but also getting the class involved with the activity before they graduate. Is in a controlled atmosphere. We all know probably that after graduation, that's when you lose a lot of people retaining. There was a group in Texas a few years ago, I think it's Dallas area, that started a weekend program. And I think that's another session that or discussion has gone on before. 6 hours on Saturday. They tried it 3 Saturdays in a row. They don't get all the way through lessons, but they're having very good success with the program. They do 6 hours on Saturday, I think from like 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock, 3:30. Take a little bit of time for lunch, potluck, and they teach as much as they can those 3 Saturdays, and then they follow up with a few workshop nights afterwards. They're keeping very accurate records, and what they're finding right now is they're retaining about 90 to 95% of the students going through that program and having big turnouts. I talked to a caller the other night that called in Rolla, Missouri. They had 17 couples take lessons this year doing the same program. And again, that's a good positive thing to be working on. Again, you don't have to worry about getting all the way through it, but get them in the door, get them hooked on them, and they'll come back for the rest of it. There's a group in Kansas City, a caller in Kansas City, that did a lot of work to do it, but he got it. He got his foot in the door with the casino, Paris. They had an area for the restaurant, their buffet, and an area off the side of that where they could dance. They're allowing the square dancers to come in for a discount for the buffet. I think buffet is like 50% of what it would normally cost for the square dancers. And then the square dancers can dance as a demo and or pulling people in from the restaurant and involving them in the dance. They're getting, it's supposed to be 4 weeks, they've expanded it to 8 weeks, and they are getting people signing up for lessons right and left, including the kitchen staff. It's very positive. It's not easy to do, but it's being done. And we get your name of the person involved in that. There's a square dance caller named Mike Kelly out of Kansas City. He's just getting back into calling a little bit stronger than what he was, but he's really active on this right now and doing a very good job with it. The one thing I think I like to encourage most is get the class involved with everything right up front, because they're the ones going to sell you again next year. And the more we do that, the better off we are. We keep talking about meeting newer, younger dancers, and we have to find a way of getting out and promoting that to the right age group. It's hard because society has changed. Society's changing every day, and it's hard for young families to get involved. We have where we do our lessons right now is a community center. And we're not the only group in that center. We're doing our lessons. And just so happened, one of the first times we were there, the door was open, our music was going. Next thing I looked up, we had about 14 little girls standing in the back, Girl Scouts. I immediately stopped the program, took a break, and invited those girls to come in, and we did a program with them. And we do it every time they show up on the door. We stop and we do a birdie song or something and involve them. It does, again, a positive image to us, because they're going home and telling their folks about them. We have a lot of the parents coming in wondering where their girls went. They're in our hall dancing with us. So it's a positive way of getting the kids involved and using that square dance activity. They love music. They'll dance it. So we include that. There's a caller in Kansas City that I know of that's not calling square dances per se anymore, but she's done a positive image for us, because she used to call them in the 80s due to having a family, all the activities go with kids. She dropped out of calling. But she still does one-night stands, party nights. I talked to her here a few years ago. She's doing 60 party nights a year. And continues to do them, and she loves it. She's not calling a regular square dance, but she's very well on the circuit of square dancing and does a very good job at square dancing selling. So she's giving good images for us, and she knows the square dance callers yet. She lets people know where lessons are being held. Those are the positive things I can tell you about in square dancing that's going on, and things I think we should be working on. Let me check my notes just a few more time. It came up a while ago about not being rigid, about not being set to the standards of doing it the same way as someone else did it. Flexibility is a big part of any of the programs that we talk about. The one-night stand parties can be different for each group we go into. The multi-cycle programs, there's various ways you can do multi-cycle programs. It's got to be flexible to what you use, what you can do with your facilities and your clubs, so they can work for you. Don't be limited to what is in the what you heard someone else do. Think about it. Open up the box. Someone had something else that I forgot. Well, there was also we noticed in the board, the governor's third night, Otto Wortman. Some of you know him. He was here at CALLERLAB last year in San Antonio. does a lot of party nights for church groups. He's developed a video that is meant for his target people, churches. And he sends this video to all the various churches, showing square dancing the way he would teach it at a one-night stand party or whatever for the church groups. A good selling tool, and it could be adapted to what your market is, what you would like to sell, whether it's kids, church groups, but videos work very well trying to get in the door. I've gone to various colleges and so forth trying to get my foot in the door, and it's tough. It's tough because they face-to-face people say, yeah, that's great, but until they see the activity, they don't know what we're doing. You can talk to them for quite a while, but you really don't get that across to them until they see the activity and how it works. So offer free dances or whatever, but they still, seeing it on the video will buy it a lot quicker. And with that, I think I'm done. I'm going to allow some time for some questions. I thank you for your attention.
Yes, thank you, Dana. We have approximately 15 minutes. Mike's got the roving mic. If we have questions, concerns, positive ideas, things that you have found successful, again, please state your name and where you're from. We want to get it on the tape so that those people that aren't with us know how much they missed.
Yes. Jim Weber from Liberty, Missouri, president of USDA. I'm glad to be at the CALLERLAB convention. Some of the things Lyle and both Dave talked about was some things that happened in Missouri. The school flyer that the school passed out that sent to the 38,000 homes, if somebody would like one of those, give me your card and I'll try to get some to mail to you. One of the key things that you can use is take that to your school and say, can you do anything like this for us? They've done this in Liberty, can you do this for us? Schools look at what other schools done and want to help. It helps a lot. They talked about the club in South Missouri that done the Saturday program. The Missouri Federation's Promotions Committee has now set up, I believe it's 4 or 5 more Saturday sessions in different parts of the state that's going to be conducted this season. So there's a lot of positive things coming from all over this. So I hope it works for the dancers and so we can get them.
I also want to tell you that also the state of Missouri, Lanny Weekland, Omaha, Nebraska.
Thank you.
The state of Missouri also have a little area called Branson. And in September, they do 2 weekends of dancing at the Shepherd of the Hills outside. Shepherd of the Hills foots the bills for the square dancers. It's a great activity. I was very fortunate to be involved in that last year. Great time. As I travel to some of the towns that I call in, I always ask about lessons. And one of the things that really got me when I was in Minnesota this last year, I talked to a couple up there, and they informed me of a small town called Underwood, Minnesota, which is south of St. Paul. And the caller's name is Larry Johnson. And what he did, he got into a homeschool program. His first set of lessons, he graduated 46 parents and students. His second set, he graduated 40 parents and students. He has 2 people that want to be callers. One is a 12-year-old boy. One is an 18-year-old girl. Homeschooling, if you can get into it, is a way to go.
Jim Moscow, San Diego, California. Al, in Boise, following your 2002 USA West Square Dance Convention, did you find that attracted new dancers into either square or round dancing?
No, we were kind of disappointed in not getting a lot of people to respond to that. We did have a slight increase that first year, but just having the convention in town did not seem to spark the interest that we thought it would. We did pick up a lot of names at that convention of people that came in and visited the convention, and we did have a publicity group that did contact every one of those names. but they just did not come out. Or if they did, you may come out one time. One disadvantage we do have in Boise is our dance center is approximately 5 miles out of town, and it's right beside a wrecking yard. So people will tend to drive out there, and they see the wrecking yard, and they will go on by, and they won't drive back into where the square. I mean, it's a beautiful square dance center. We have 10,000 square feet of hardwood floor, and it is a beautiful square dance center, but the wrecking yard in front of it turns a lot of people off. We've had people that said, I came out here 3 years ago and drove by twice, and I would not drive in. But then they come out with a friend, and they'll come on in. So that has hurt us some, we know.
Is it that junkyard bulldog out front?
Jean Beck, Dubuque, Iowa, and this is one thing I don't think my husband covered, and it's probably not covered in the handout, but we worked together at it. A couple years ago, we had about 11 graduate from lessons, and we were quite excited with that, although we had come out of a class of 49, but the classes don't seem to be that big. About a mile from home one morning, we saw the Adopt a Highway sign was open for adoption, and I said to Lyle, we can do that. That's usually what gets us in trouble, because we think we can do that. So we went right over to the Federation president where he worked, and we said, if the Federation does not want to do this, we will do this. There's now a sign up about a mile from our home, and then about a mile the other direction. Tri-state square dancers have adopted that highway. We also have a good time getting together. Of those 11 people, most of those came to help pick up trash that day. And we have a chili potluck at our house after. Main thing I want to impress on everybody is a positive attitude. Do I have a positive attitude when I have to clean the house to get ready for this chili potluck? No, but they don't know that, and they love to come. And we've done it how many times now, and we do it again shortly after we get back in May. So they will be coming to our house. I will get my house cleaned, and we'll have a chili potluck, and there's a lot of bonding. Before they came, I had a big square dance jigsaw puzzle that I was putting together, and it did say square dance, a do-si-do, and a lot of things in it. I took some pieces out because I had done the easy parts. And after the meal, some had to hurry away, but others stayed. There were 3 guys that I would least expect to be that stood there and worked on that jigsaw puzzle for over an hour. So there was a lot of bonding from social things.
One other thing I meant to bring up, if you decide to try one of these programs that we've talked about, or one of the success stories that have been tried by someone else, and it doesn't quite pan out the way you think it should the first time you try it, don't give up on it. Evaluate from what you learn from it and make it adapt and try it again. Make modifications, whatever it takes, but make it work for you. And just keep trying and stirring. You may find it works. But don't be real quick and say, well, it doesn't work, so I'm not going to try it anymore.
I want to make a quick comment on one of Dana's stories. We have a couple working in the Northeast somewhere that is teaching classes in a retirement center, and they kind of defaulted into that because they lost their place to dance also. They found that after about the 3rd week, the residents know who should be there. If somebody doesn't show up for class, the residents are out there grilling them the next time that they come, saying, why weren't you here last week? So the caller doesn't have to get out there and get after them and say, hey, well, you should have been here last week. The residents are out there grilling them and saying, come on out.
I'm Art Parks, Southern California, bachelors and bachelorettes. I simply wanted to share something with you on the subject of effective demonstrations. Picked up at a previous workshop that when you do demonstrations, well, there's a lot I'm not going to cover on it, but when you pass out flyers to prospective candidates to be a student, many of the flyers end up on the ground, out in the parking lot or in the mall or wherever the heck you are. And at a workshop I attended, they suggested that you give people smaller items, a card that has the information that you want to convey to them. So we experimented with using cards. The first year we picked up, it was difficult to get rolling on it. It's very expensive. It can be very expensive to do cards, whereas flyers are cheap. And it's okay if they end up on the ground. Oh, well. But we played around with cards, and the first year we bought postcard stock. And we had people that were talented on a computer, and we did both sides. And I'm going to wave one around. I have copies. Happen to have copies with me for those of you who might be interested in playing around with this yourself. But this amounts to a postcard, and you can buy that at your stationery store. We printed both sides. I'll just tell you, there's a picture of square dancers dancing. It's actually a photograph. On the back is a map, how you get to where you're going to throw your square dance lessons. That was a bad word, wasn't it? Anyway, inside it talks about the virtues of square dancing and how to call for information. These were very expensive. Just buying the darn postcard stock, cost you something like 20 cents a piece before you went to the printer. I mean, ran it through your printer, and not to mention all the work of putting it together. Next year, we got a little smarter. We bought card stock, and I have a daughter that's a computer whiz, fortunately. We did much the same thing, only this time you're looking at a 6-panel thing. Again, the same photograph, the same map, a waste panel actually. Inside, we described why you should learn how to square dance, where it is, and then describe something about the caller who is going to be conducting the sessions. And these ended up being very cheap, something like 12 to 15 cents a piece, which is still not real cheap, but it's an improvement for a much fancier item. And you spend forever on a paper cutter, cutting the sheets in thirds and folding them. But lots of good feedback got from using these. I won't say that that's the whole thing that has grown our club, but it sure didn't hurt. I guess that's what I'll...
Bruce Simpers from Ellicott City, Maryland. The Dancers Association in the Baltimore area came up with, during parades, that they were not allowed to use flyers, so they came up with wooden coins. Those wooden coins are easily passed out. People can put them in their pockets. They're not like the paper that gets thrown away. I actually did a Girl Scout father-daughter dance where I just put them out on the stage. Those little girls came up and picked up those coins, and they took them home. Sometime their parents is going to find those wooden coins again and think of square dancing. So it's a nice advertisement.
Roy Gotta from North Brunswick, New Jersey. 3 things I wanted to address. They'll all be short. On the latest thing, the cards, one of the clubs in our area, what they did, which was even cheaper than all of that, for their parades and demos and things, they took a deck of playing cards with a nice design on the back. This one, I think, was hot air balloons. And then they just took computer mailing labels that were the same size as the playing cards, printed their little message, and put it on the side, that had the ace of spades or whatever. And people really, they could put it in their shirt pocket. So it's an effective and cheap way to do the same thing. The other thing that has been successful in mostly my round dance clubs and our advanced square dance club, we haven't yet translated it to our mainstream, but we have a problem with snowbirds in New Jersey. So we stopped starting our lessons in October. We now run our lessons from April to October, when the snowbirds are there. And it has increased our attendance. The other thing we did is in our mainstream club, which is having its 50th anniversary in May, is we started attracting families. Our problem was we were a university club that left the university, and as our population got older, they started having kids and leaving the club. So we just said, well, heck with that. We switched our lessons to Sunday afternoon, and we don't have our problem was retention. We graduate people and never see them again. So we stopped having a graduation. We have our lessons for an hour and a half before the dance, twice a month. It takes us 2 years to get to mainstream, but we never, once they're there for their, quote, lesson, they stay with the club, and every dance has class level tips and activities. And we had a small class. It was only a square and a half, and it was 3 families, parents and kids, but we had 100% retention.
I promised not to speak, but now I'm going to.
Go ahead.
My name is Mike Hogan. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska, and I'm chairman of CALLERLAB's marketing committee. This is great information. If anybody wants lots of information about radio, since that came up, that's what I actually do for a living, is radio. So I can speak for a while about that, but not on the microphone. The other thing that we're doing, we just started, and I'm just doing it with my committee right now, before this convention, but after this convention, we're going to start collecting cards, and flyers, and radio tapes, and videotapes, and any kind of paraphernalia that you are using as a promotion tool to recruit. So if you got a wooden coin, wherever, I could use that. If you have any of those things with you here now and would leave them with me, I would love it. What our intention is to go through those things, find some of the stuff that's really working, and ultimately make that available again, maybe through CALLERLAB, maybe through the arts. We're kind of trying to figure that out right now. But in whatever way, shape, or form we end up doing that, having a complete library of marketing tools that clubs can get a hold of us and use. So if you have any of those and would like to share them with me now, I've got my briefcase and it's empty, so we'll fill it up. Otherwise, please feel free to send them to the CALLERLAB home office, or if you go to our website, go to the marketing committee, you'll find me and you can get all the information on me there. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. Anybody else have anything else? We've had a lot of good ideas, thoughts come out today. I've asked the panel if there's any closing comments. Dana has some things, a couple things he wants to mention. I got a couple things, and then we'll get you on your way. Change your mind.
Change your mind.
Okay.
Okay. The first thing I want to point out, and when we talk about success stories, which this session is really about, CALLERLAB does have a pamphlet on success stories. Tom will probably talk a little more about. But also, one thing I didn't talk about too much is I'm in progress of it. It's a process thing I'm doing. In the area where I call and dance, it's a small area. There's a lot of small towns not too far away. I was approached by one of our dancers that there was a high school in this community of about 900 people, and they were looking for somebody to come for their homecoming dance to be a DJ type person, do some line dancing for the kids and so forth. So I got my foot in the door by doing some line dances for these kids. The sponsors were so impressed that the kids actually stayed for the full time until they had to go home because of the curfew. But they all stayed till the end, and we did line dancing and just kept them going. When we got done with that, a few weeks later, we got an invitation from the city council to come back in and do a street dance for them. We went into a street dance, and at that, we started introducing a few of the mixer type things that you'd see in square dancing. Not really square dancing, just again DJ work, doing music, line dancing, and throwing a few mixers in. And as time's going on, we're getting more of these things from the same community where they want us to come back and do again like not the homecoming, but the prom night. We got another street dance lined up here 1st of May, and again we're just going to keep expanding into a little more square dancing as we go. we're breaking down some of the concerns about, oh, they're just going to push square dancing in or country music. We're trying to mix all kinds of music into it and all kinds of activity. But little by little, we're hoping to kind of blend in more and more square dancing as we go. So the barriers are breaking down as we go. It's an ongoing process. But I think it's going to work. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. And if it works in that small town, there's about 30 or 40 right in the area with about 40 miles of us that we can get to. So that's one of the things that's on my hit list.
Lyle Beck again. I think with any of these success stories, your attitude is 80-90% of it. Keep a positive attitude, look outside the box, but keep that positive attitude and try new things, and some of them will work. And again, I'd like to reiterate from a dancer's point of view, our dancers are happy with our callers. Almost everyone I talk to, we have the best caller. They really are pleased. You're doing a good job, and keep it up.
All right, just a couple of things. Anybody that didn't hear the radio commercial prior to starting our session, we're going to play that after we finish up. How about, if you would, give Dana, Al, and Lyle a nice hand for helping us out. Mike Hogan for running the mic for us this morning. Just a couple of things, just summary, and it's all been hit on. Our successful clubs today are progressive, they're aggressive, they're making their new dancer sessions fun, everybody's thinking outside the box, we're creating positive images, we're being flexible in our programs. And another thing, primary spokesperson for your club has got to be one of the most positive people that you have in that organization. Dana mentioned the Winning Ways program. This was tasked to the RPM committee a couple years ago by the Board of Governors. We have collected a series of success stories that have occurred and happened across the United States. They are available on the CALLERLAB website. You can print them off and share them with anybody you want to. Just go to CALLERLAB.org, look under Documents, and then there's another drop-down box for Winning Ways. I think there's 25 or 30 success stories there. Our goal is to get this information out to you, encourage you, and motivate you. Take those ideas, mix, match, splice, but make it work for you. Appreciate you all coming out this morning. We'll see you sessions around the way, and a couple handouts on the back that you can pick up on the way out, and we'll hear the commercial again. You're free to move as you want.